Hi, everybody. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're coming from. My name is Sheila Ryan, and I'm a Cuddle Ambassador with Shannon Fabrics. And today I am so excited to come to you and to be sharing with you some really great tips for bag making. Okay, we're going to go through the steps almost all the way, maybe all the way. It depends on how our time goes, but on how to make a duffel bag. Now, I've tried a lot of really great patterns, and I'm happy to show those to you. But as I was making big patterns, I realized that in this room, I don't have the space to make a great big giant bag on camera. My issue is because I can't be trusted with flat surface. So if you know me, you know what that means. So I've got a smaller flat surface, and I'm going to show you a simple mini duffel today. So we've got links for you. We've got ingredients, so don't worry about that. We'll have everything that you need so that you can grab the patterns that I'm talking about and then get the materials and sew along with us. This video is going to be saved on both YouTube and Facebook on the Shannon Fabrics page. And so if you are making one of these bags later and you need the information for that, that information is there for you in the future. Okay, so I see people popping in. It's nice to see so many of you guys here. I see Birdie, who I know is from Colorado, and Deidre. Let's see, I see, oh my goodness, people from all over the place. Iowa, Nebraska, Louisiana, Florida. So we are already covering the whole country. So it'll be so fun for us to sew this bag along together. And so as you come in, if you don't mind, share where you're from, where you're watching from. And also, I want to remind you that by sharing this video to your social medias, whether that's on Facebook or Instagram, from the Shannon Fabrics main page, when you share this video, you're entered to win a prize from Shannon Fabrics. And so today, our prize is a gorgeous pack of Quilting Cuddle fat quarters. These are brand new. They're super fun. We're going to talk a little bit about what Quilting Cuddle is in a minute because that's what I'm using for our project today. But Quilting Cuddle is just a fabulous fabric. It's very thin. It's very easy to work with. There are some tips and tricks that we've learned about using this fabric. And so as we sew along today, I'm going to share with you the things that I do, the adjustments that I've made to my sewing machine, some of the tips I have for cutting and then using the fabric in a bag. And we're going to learn a little bit about Quilting Cuddle too. So this will be lots and lots of fun. Okay, I see here more new friends from Michigan and from New York. Okay, one other thing that I wanted to show you before we get started, and then I'm going to show you this at the end too. This is online. Shannon Fabrics does a lot of classes and sew-togethers and education online, but we love to come and sew with you. And so I made a list because I wanted you guys to see just how many classes there are available at Shannon Fabrics right now. And these are just, oh my gosh, there's so many. So we've got a couple of different programs that we're doing right now. The first one we're doing is called Cuddle Up with Bernina. This is a fun 2-day event where we make 3 projects. We make an infinity scarf, a Luxe throw, and then an envelope back style pillow. The cool thing about this class is that we're using Bernina L8 series overlockers. So that's a serger. It's a super fun event, and stores all across the country are hosting these. So you can see on here, we've got one this week in Aurora, New York, in Wenatchee, Washington. In a couple of weeks after Easter, we'll have one in La Plata, Maryland, and then Arlington Heights, Illinois, Littleton, Colorado, Snohomish, Washington, Niles, Michigan, and Logan, Utah. Those are just the classes for the Cuddle Up with Bernina that we have in March and April. But we don't just have this program. We also have other classes. And this is what we were doing before we were doing the Cuddle Up classes with the Cuddle Up with Bernina classes, is we were having 1-day classes. Sometimes they're 4 hours, sometimes they're 6 hours. Sometimes the store will host an event that's like a 2-day class, but these are all 1-day classes. And I want you to see the diversity of projects that we have now, because Cuddle is not just blankets. Cuddle is all kinds of projects. So we've got a Quilting Cuddle zipper bag that you can take in person. That's going to be in Greenville, Indiana. We've got several Harper the Elephant and Barkley the Puppy stuffy classes. If you haven't made a Harper the Elephant or Barkley the Puppy yet, and you're worried about that process, go take a class. First of all, you need to know that these kits for Harper and Barkley, they're all pre-cut. So all you have to do is get down and start sewing. But it's so fun to make one of these stuffies. So look at those classes. And then we have a Serger Robe class coming up in Morris, Illinois, and then a Lux Throw Quillo blanket class. So I should eat my words previously. So we do have a blanket class. It's the Lux Throw Quillo in Universal City, which is San Antonio. So I see people saying that they would love to virtual or East Coast. Okay, Deidre, we are going to work on that. So if you haven't taken a class with a Shannon Fabrics Cuddle ambassador or educator, let your local quilt shop know. So Shannon Fabrics is only available at your independent quilt shop. It's not available in big box stores. So we do the classes at quilt shops, and then at larger events around the country. There are also OSQE, which is the Original Sewing and Quilting Expo. We just did 2 events in Lakeland, Florida, and then in Atlanta, Georgia. And so watch those OSQE events for more cuddle classes as well. All right. I think we can go back to me. But I wanted y'all to see just the classes that are available right now, because we're having a lot of fun. And I know several of us are hitting the road or hitting the sky tomorrow to come bring you some more classes. So let's see. Oh, I see. Let's see. Sherry says she's in a quilt shop desert. Oh, I know that is so hard. And then Annalisa went to Cuddle Up with Bernina and Nebraska Quilt Company, and it was amazing. Oh, I'm so glad. Good. It's just such a fun class, and we really learn a whole lot. We kind of learn the machine, we learn the cuddle, we learn how they work together. There's nothing like being together in a classroom. It's a lot of fun for everybody. Okay, let's talk about today's project. So I have to go over here and grab my bags because I want to show you what I've got for you. So I love making bags of all kinds, big bags, little bags, all kinds. And I've been taking this big duffel around with me as I've traveled. So I made this in the fall, probably, oh gosh. So I know I took it to the last time I went to Atlanta, which is in October, I believe. And I think it was fresh. No, I took it to Colorado in October. It was either in like August or September that I made this. So this is the patchwork duffel from Knot and Thread. And it's originally designed, you can see how big it is. So it's originally designed to be made from your patchwork fabric that you quilted. And so you've got a big quilt sandwich, and then you form it into a duffel bag. It's super great because it has these wonderful pockets on the end that are very roomy and generous. And then you can do other things, like you can add other pockets if you want to. I add these cute little Made Under Moonlight tags to the bags that I make because I just love them. And then I have bound all of my edges with Cuddle. This is made of a Cuddle print called Mustang. And so it's like a Mustang horse. And it's just so fun. And I'm in Texas too, so cowboys, all that. Anyway, super cute. This is a great bag. I have filled it full of stuff. I've been toting it around, and I love it. Having a bag made out of Cuddle, especially if you're somebody that needs like that tactile input for your brain, is really nice, because then you have something. It's not like you're holding a stuffed animal or a blankie. Nobody's going to look at you weird, and you've got your bag to kind of get that calm effect. Okay, so I actually carry a crossbody bag made out of Cuddle too. Lots of Cuddle in my life because my brain needs it. Anyway, what I've also done on this one is, instead of using cotton for binding the area by the zipper, I just used Cuddle. So it's all C3. It's just gorgeous, and I love it. I have used actual cotton for the lining of this one. So this is kind of the first thing I'm thinking of. When I'm making a bag, okay, a bag pattern generally has some stabilizing, either inner foam or fusible fleece or something in between the layers as you've quilted it to give it some structure so it kind of stands up on its own and it works like a bag and it doesn't smoosh down and it protects the stuff that you have inside of it. If I wanted a regular tote bag that was just one layer of fabric, there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't have a lot of structure. And I love a structured bag. So I've got By Annie Soft and Stable in this one. And you can see that even as it's just sitting in my lap, it's nice and stable. It holds its shape really well. It was easy to sew together, even if it was big and bulky. Okay, so super easy. Now the patchwork duffel pattern, in the pattern, she tells you that you can use a piece of patchwork. I didn't do that on this one. Obviously, I just used a whole piece of fabric and quilted it together with my soft and stable in the middle and then the regular cotton fabric on the inside. Okay, now, because this was a big piece of fabric, I actually did do this on a long arm, and this was my first time using the long arm, and so it was nice and fun, and I just did stripes back and forth just to hold those layers together, okay? So that's all I did on this one. It's actually super fun. I did do a little bit of machine embroidery quilting on the end panels, and it's hard to see on the printed areas, but on the inside, I just used the plain C3 in latte. And you can see the texture that the machine embroidery quilting lends to these areas. And it's just lovely. I mean, I know it's inside the pocket, but I know it's there. Okay. So you can decide how you need to quilt your projects. There you go. You can see inside that one. Isn't that fun and pretty? Can I get you a good angle of inside the pocket? There we go. Now you can see inside my pockets. But I did that on those end panels too. It was not hard. It did take me a lot longer than I thought because I had never done it before. And that's something to keep in mind. When you're doing a project, the first time you make it, it's always going to take you a little bit longer than you expect, even if it's a quick and simple project. The things that I have to watch out for myself is that I'm not great at following instructions. So I have to slow down a little bit, read through the instructions, kind of make myself some notes, gather the supplies so that I have everything here, because this is how my brain works. If I have to stop in the middle and go look for something, I'm going to be distracted by, I don't know, the zippers over there or more fabric or another project. And then it may be a week before I get back to it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was making that thing. I should finish that. And so in order for me to get all the way through a project, I need to gather everything and bring it over to my area. Okay. So that way I don't get sidetracked. All right. So the first time I made this bag, it took me a couple of days to get all the way through it. I did prepare a couple of other pieces of cuddle quilted to cotton while I was at the long arm that day because I don't have one at my house. I just was borrowing one. So this one, the other thing too I was doing is I was playing with the different kinds of foam interfacing that you might use for a bag because I wanted to have some examples of how does this kind of foam stabilizer work or how does this one come? Because people suggest all kinds of things on the internet. And until you make a bag with the right stuff, you never really know. Does that make sense? So this is another one I did. Same pattern. I used a beautiful floral C3. So this is a printed cuddle. And I quilted it on the long arm. I just made big loopy flowers and leaves and stuff on it, which you really can't see. I know what I did because I was there, but nobody else really can see because I did such a large quilty thing. All my layers are together though. And so that's what matters because my soft and stable is quilted between the cuddle on the outside and the cotton on the inside. Now on this version, I made my own straps, which the pattern suggests. Now, because I'm using cuddle, I'm thinking through the process, okay? So I'm always trying to think, how do I want this to end up? And I have to remember that when I'm using cuddle, it's thicker. It's a thicker fabric, right? We use a 90-14 needle because it's thicker. And we adjust our pressure foot pressure because the fabric is thicker. So when I'm going to take fabric that is thicker than the cotton, the woven cotton that the pattern was intended for, I've got to do some adjustments, okay? So instead of interfacing my cuddle that I wanted to use for the straps, what I did is I simply made a tube with my cuddle that was going to finish at the right width, okay? So thinking about the pattern, thinking about how wide the straps need to be, but instead of using interfacing, which I could have used, I simply put a grosgrain ribbon in the middle. Now, cuddle fabric does have a stretch. It's a knit fabric, and it stretches across the width of the fabric from selvage edge to selvage edge. It's that's the way it's made. And so when you stretch it, it is stretchy. Okay, I've got a little piece right here, and you can see it stretch. Now, this is Quilting Cuddle. It's stretchy, but it doesn't stretch out of shape. It doesn't roll under and stay rolled under like the jersey on a t-shirt or a sweater knit. So cuddle is stretchy, but it's not stretchy, out of control stretchy. It's a stable knit. But because I cut these straps from the widthwise of the fabric, I cut them across the width of the fabric to save fabric. I needed to stabilize them. Otherwise, when I put these straps on here and as I'm holding it, these are going to be stretchy. That is not what we want in a bag. Okay. So also the little tabs at the end. So they have little hardware tabs with these great rings on it. If I had not stabilized this fabric, when I put these rings on it, these would be stretchy also. I don't want that. I wanted it to be nice and stable. So that grosgrain ribbon gives me a very, very thin layer of extra strength. In the bag that we're doing today, I'm going to make some little tabs like this, but we're going to be using an interfacing that I fuse onto the fabric so that I get that strength as well. But I just wanted to, talk about just different ways to do the straps. Now on this version of the bag, before I go on and show you that bag, I want to talk about the stabilizer that I use. So for this bag, you can see already how soft it is. So I don't have anything in it. It collapses nice and easy. And it's actually very, very soft and supple, and it's, I can fold it up really nice and tiny. I used headliner material. So if you have an upholstery shop, or some quilt stores carry upholstery fabrics, like for redecorating your curtains or reupholstering your furniture, they might carry this auto headliner fabric. So we used to get it at a big box store, right? But we don't do that anymore. So I went to an upholstery shop and I got some of that automotive headliner. And it's the stuff that's on the top, the roof of your car. And it comes in all different widths and thicknesses and colors, and some is suede back. So it's actually a really great fabric. It's not as stiff and sturdy, though, as the soft and stable. So that's the thing that I wanted you to know. It is a little bit easier to sew, but it doesn't have the body of something like soft and stable, or the Bosal, or the Pellon Flex Foam. Okay, so if you need a bag that you can squish up, roll up tight in your suitcase so that you have an extra bag for your shopping that you did, maybe at the expo, or you're traveling doing a shop hop and you need an extra bag so that you can build that up and bring that home. You might want to use something softer like that auto headliner stuff. Okay, that's super soft. Now this is a gorgeous bag. There is nothing wrong at all with it. I sewed it together the same way I did for the bigger duffel, but it is just a little bit less structured, and it doesn't stand up on its own. I mean, it might stand up for a picture for about 30 seconds, but then it's gonna, kind of collapse. It is nice and soft. I could actually use this as a little pillow if I needed to while I was traveling. So that's what auto headliner foam does for the inside, just so you know. Okay. Let me see. Okay, so here's one more version that I did. And I did this one with the soft and let's see. Yeah, by any soft and stable flat foam as well on the inside. And then for my long arming, I got a little bit more adventurous. And so I did some little square, meandering all down it. It's hard to see on camera. There it goes. You can see it when the light catches it this way. The other thing that I did to this pattern is I used Quilting Cuddle for my straps. So these straps also have the grosgrain ribbon inside. And as you see, when we go to sewing the small version of the duffel bag, you put all of the straps, you put your pockets on, you do all of the details to the flap of the bag. I guess it's the main body of the bag. Where are my zippers? Right there. Before you put your zipper in. So it's really nice to make a bag that has all of this done, so you're not doing all of this at the end, when this would be kind of fiddly. So we put all of our straps, these straps go all the way around, and then they come up the other side. And then I did, in addition to putting pockets on the end, which I haven't done yet, this one's still open, but I put a pocket between the straps as I sewed them on. So I just made a little pocket. This one is just more of the Quilting Cuddle with cotton on the back. I bound the edge with a little bit more Quilting Cuddle, and then I finished the bottom. I did finish the bottom, so it is bound with Quilting Cuddle also. Okay, and then as I was sewing these straps down, I caught the edges underneath the straps. So this was not part of the pattern, but I wanted that extra pocket on front. I still haven't put a little tag on it, so I might put a little tag. What I'm probably going to do is put one of these little, you may have seen these at the craft store, these little handmade metal doodads. I think that's such a cute touch. It's very elevated, I think. And just any little hardware just kind of raises it up a little bit. So I still have that to do. And then I have to put my ends on. Now, the way Caitlin has you put the ends on is you sew, let me find my panel. I put it somewhere. I've already put it somewhere this morning. Anyway, she has you construct the pocket edge with the binding on it, because when you sew it together with your bag, your binding is going to cover those seams on the inside. I will show you on this bag. Pardon me leaning over and grabbing them, but they're on the floor. So here's how the inside looks before I've sewn the binding down, okay? So here's the inside of my bag. Here's that side edge, okay? And then I put the binding on before I put this panel onto the bag. And so now my cuddle binding, because I'm using cuddle for the binding, right? It's simply going to wrap over this edge, and then I can sew it down with a sewing machine. I can cover all of these. These aren't raw, they're serged, but I can cover all these nice flat edges with the cuddle binding. And because the binding stretches, I didn't have to cut it on the bias. I'm just taking advantage of the stretch that's naturally in the cuddle, so I can get around these curves easier. I can roll this all down, and then the inside is going to be nice and yummy too. There's nothing wrong with the inside with just these serged edges, or even with just regular sewn edges. I just like a really finished bag, because I'm going to have stuff in here. I might have pins or hair clips. Something may get stuck in those edges, and I just want it to be a little bit nicer inside. I feel like these are the touches that take your bag making from like something you might do in home ec. No shade to home ec teachers. I made my first bag ever in 7th grade home ec and had a ball doing it. But we're learning new things. We're developing new skills. And so we can elevate our bags by doing these little finishing touches, like binding those seams on the inside. It's a lovely top-notch finish, okay? And also, too, because we're using cuddle, we actually get a little bit more wiggle room. That's what's fun about using cuddle for a bag. We have a little bit more wiggle room. We have a little bit of stretch in the fabric that we can take advantage of if we need to, but we can also control it. So those are the things that I'm thinking of, the reasons I want to use cuddle for a bag, okay? So I showed you those. I showed you the pink one and how those binding things happen. One of the things that I do want to talk about, and we're going to see this as I go on with the mini bag, is in bag making, you're adding things to the bag so that you can use it as a carrying bag, like whether you're going to wear it across your body or as a shoulder bag, or you're going to be toting it like luggage, either from car to car, even if it's just kids from your house to grandma's house. or sports, whatever you're doing, a bag is meant to be carried and it's meant to be used. The bag's not just for looking at. These are bags that are meant to be used. Cuddle is an easy to care for 100% polyester fabric. We just wash it. I mean, I could throw this whole thing into the washing machine on low or no heat. And as long as I don't use any fabric softener in the washer or the dryer, it's going to come out great because polyester fabric's really easy to take care of. When I'm sewing it, though, I'm thinking about the things that I've added to it. Like maybe I've done some straps from pre-made strap material, okay? So this strap material right here is 100% nylon, and it's like seatbelt webbing. Like a lot of the quilt stores are carrying these beautiful webbings that you can use for your bag making projects. So that's what this is, and I made my little tabs out of it. So it's 100% nylon. It's very, very strong, but it's kind of thick. And so when I'm using straps like this, I've got to be taking that into an account. When I'm making the patchwork duffel bag, I may want to use quilting cotton on the inside because it's so thin, especially if I've used regular C3 or a Luxe Cuddle for the outside. Okay, does that make sense? Regular Cuddle has a 3mm pile, and that just means that the fibers from the backing, they stick up a little bit in time and space. They have volume. Okay, Quilting Cuddle, it's just flat like a piece of paper for the most part. And so it doesn't take up much volume up here in space like Cuddle does. Cuddle's a little bit thicker. It's a little bit denser fabric. We use a heavier needle when we're sewing it. And then when you start adding things like these extra bindings on the edges and then these straps that are a different material completely, you've got some bulk in there. So these are just some considerations. How do I get through all these layers when I'm working with Cuddle in my bag? Because the pattern may not be written for a thick fabric like Cuddle. Does that make sense? So I've got to think through those things, and that's what we're going to do today. Okay. Oh, yeah. Helen says it's great for the gym with sweaty clothes. You can wash it. Yes, for sure. Natalie's here. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Hi, Natalie. I'm so happy to see you, and I'm glad you got my message. So this is going to be super fun. So let me show you what we're making today. And Natalie popped in at just the right time. So for today's demonstration, we're making a duffel, but we're going to make a mini duffel bag. And it's called the Simple Mini Duffel, and it's by Bow Bags, which is Natalie Rawlinson's company. And I met Natalie at Colorado when I was teaching Cuddle, and she was teaching her bags. And I was just so impressed at her beautiful bags. I have not had a chance until lately to get my bags made out of the Quilting Cuddle that I wanted to use. Actually, it didn't even exist last year. So it's good that we're doing it now because now I have the Cuddle that I want. So here's the link to the pattern. It's from Bow Bags. That's Natalie Rawlinson. Her company is called Tickle Grass Designs, but her bag making patterns are Bow Bags. So it's super fun to say. And we're making the Simple Mini Duffel. Okay, you want to see it. This is so cute. So the Simple Mini Duffel comes just as it is by itself. And that's what we're making today. Yesterday, I made this version out of Quilting Cuddle, and this is the baby version of it. So Natalie has an add-on in her Etsy shop if you want to make one that's a little bit bigger than the one we're making today and one that's a little bit smaller. So this is it. This is the baby Simple Mini Duffel. It's so cute. I made mine out of Quilting Cuddle. This is the Whispering Blooms collection. And one of the things that I did as I was thinking through how I was going to make it, I know that Cuddle has a nap, right? So Cuddle is soft and silky. The fibers lay one way or another. And so when I pet it one way, it feels soft and silky. When I pet it the other way, I get some texture. So I was thinking I want to make this bag that has flowers on it. I wanted my flowers to also be going the right way too. Okay, so look at this. So my flowers actually go exactly the same way on each side. They're standing up with their stems. I'm thinking about using Cuddle, okay, and I'm treating it like a directional fabric. So most patterns that are bag making patterns have a little blurb in there about how to use directional fabrics. And so that's perfect for working with Cuddle because Cuddle truly is a directional fabric. It's got a nap. That nap is a texture direction, not necessarily a print, although this version with the Whispering Blooms, it is a print. So all those flowers are standing up. Okay, Super cute. I got to show you the inside though. And this is why I just love this bag, because the inside, y'all, this is brilliant. You're going to love it. It's completely finished. I don't have any raw edges. And I'm actually going to turn the whole thing inside out just so you can see that I don't have any of these raw edges. Y'all, the inside is as scrumptious and as yummy as the outside. So I use Quilting Cuddle on the inside as well. Now, Quilting Cuddle is half the thickness of regular C3 Cuddle. Okay, so regular C3 Cuddle, that 3 is for 3 millimeters. That's how far the fibers stick up over the backing. Quilting Cuddle, the fibers are half that. So they're 1.5 millimeters. So that means if I'm using Quilting Cuddle, I could use it for the lining and still only have 3 millimeters sticking up into space. Does that make sense? So, because 1.5 and 1.5 is 3. And so I didn't have to use cotton. I could have, but I wanted to use Quilting Cuddle. So this color, which is just gorgeous, is called Leaf. And I was inspired to use this because last month and the month before, our Cuddle ambassador from Maryland, Ajay Perello, did that gorgeous Stila bag, her little backpack, with these same fabrics. And she used the Whispering Blooms. She used some purple, and then she also used the leaf. And I loved that combination. I got to see that bag in person. She was toting it around when we were in Atlanta together at OSQE, and it was just gorgeous. It was so yummy. She's lucky she made it home with that bag. And I know how hard she worked on it, so I wasn't going to nip it from her, but it was so pretty. I had to make something with that color combination on it. So I made this little bag. But look, all these edges are finished. We're going to walk through the whole process of doing that. On this version, I used a fun number 5 zipper from Sally Tomatoes, so it's got a little bit of texture and a little bit of fun on it. And I used one of the Sally Tomatoes zipper pulls for it, so see, it's that cute little donut shape. And then I used pre-purchased webbing, okay? And I've got some purchased webbing also to do for the bag that we're going to do today. So we're going to keep it simple. Instead of using webbing, though, here, I do want to show you how I make those little straps. So whether you want to make the strap your own strapping instead of using webbing, you can do that too, okay? Just out of the Quilting Cuddle. All right. So I think what we need to do, I need to show you the fabrics we're using. And the other thing that we can do, you know what, I'll do that in just a second. But here is some of the fabric that we're using. So we're going to be using the Quilting Cuddle in Stonewash. And can you see just the texture? It's not really a texture. It's just the print on this. It's this lovely kind of batik, kind of faded carpet look. This one is called Cloud. Okay, isn't that gorgeous? It's so silky. It's very drapey too. Quilting Cuddle is very wearable, so keep that in mind and just know that we've got more Quilting Cuddle wearable projects coming as well. And of course, it's for quilting, like you can use it for quilting. I don't have my, oh yeah, I do. Do I have my little bitty pieces right here? No, I don't. Oh yeah, I do. So we've been quilting with Quilting Cuddle, making quilted things. Like here are some itty bitty flying geese that I made with the Quilting Cuddle. This is a 2x2 square, y'all. So tiny, so cute. I just wanted to see how tiny I could get it and how precise I could be at that scale. So tiny, tiny. This one is the Quilting Cuddle in Stonewash. Same line, but this color is Jewel. And it's this beautiful silky purple. Again, with all of that texture, not really texture, print. It's print. And we know it's print because the back's white, right? So it's printed on this side. The print is very, very saturated. And so it's so lovely to use. I'm using fat quarters. And so do you remember I told you that if you'll share this video that you could win a set of fat quarters? Maybe you want a set of fat quarters from the Stonewash collection, okay? Because that's what these are from. So these are fat quarters. We're going to be making the bag that calls for fat quarters, and we're making the regular size, just the mini duffel size. Okay, what else do you need to know that I'm using? So here's my webbing. I've got my webbing. I've got a strap that I made from one of the other bags, so I can show you about this strap. I've got a little bit of SF101, and this is a fusible interfacing that is going to take my stretch fabric and make it not stretch. Okay, remember I told you we don't want those straps to stretch when we're hanging onto our bag. We don't want a stretchy handle. That would just be the most awkward, awful thing. I could, not the most, but it would be awkward. Okay, that'd be weird. And so we want to take the stretch out of our handle area. Now, I'm going to be using those little hardware loops on the side of the bag. Did I already put my bag somewhere else? I did. I'll get it in a second. But this is what we're going to use to stabilize that. You can use any fusible interfacing that is woven, because when you put a woven interfacing on a stretch fabric, you cancel out the stretch. And that's exactly what we're doing. I canceled out the stretch on the straps of the other bag by putting a grosgrain ribbon inside of it, but I didn't fuse anything. So what I had to do is I had to sew the grosgrain ribbon into it by running some lines of top stitching. And that is fine. See, it looks nice and top stitching. But I have to think about this, and I didn't think about this when I was making that other bag, is that not only do I need the top stitching to keep the grosgrain ribbon in place, to keep the strap flat, what I also needed to think about was that I was also going to be sewing this again onto the bag down both sides. And so that means that in some places on that bag, because I'm trying to rustle all of that fabric, it was hard for me, may not be hard for you, but it was hard for me to keep my line consistent through all those layers with this extra strap. Okay, so remember the bag that I was using for this one, I had a layer of soft and stable, or the headliner, a layer of quilting cotton, the C3 for the outside, plus my strap. And now my strap is now 2 layers of C3 plus the grosgrain ribbon. That was a lot of thickness to go through. Okay, so I could have done some things to make that a little bit easier, but I wasn't thinking through the whole thing the whole way, if you know what I mean. So that's why we're doing this together, so you can learn from the things that I learned and not make that mistake your first time. Okay. All right. Let's see. I see people have been using Quilting Cuddle. Oh, Deidre, you're making the sweatshirt with C3. Oh, nice. And Quilting Cuddle. I can't wait to see your sweatshirt. That's awesome. Let me go back up here and look at a few more comments. Oh, y'all say hi to Jackie. Jackie is managing the comments over on YouTube for us. And y'all, she's just fantastic. If you haven't taken a class from Jackie yet, you should look for her classes and sign up, because she's just amazing. All right, let's see. Do I have any other questions that I need to answer right now? No. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, and Dolores Jr.'s here. Hi, Dolores. Hi, Lana. Oh, Natalie. Oh, you're going to love this. You are going to love this. And the only thing that can we wallpaper with Quilting Cuddle? Helen. I had never thought of that before. But now that you say it, I don't see why not. Actually, I bet we can. And actually, okay, don't tell me any more ideas like that, because now I need to know. We could make a tiny little padded room for us with Quilting Cuddle on the inside, just a little safe place. Oh my goodness. Helen, you just said that to throw me off here. All right. You know what we might want to do? We might want to quilt that Quilting Cuddle with some soft and stable, then put it on the walls. And that way we don't hurt ourselves when we're sewing. Okay. Sometimes we stumble. If your sewing room is anything like mine, I have a path to get out and cords everywhere right now because I'm set up for filming. But oh my gosh, we cannot be safe enough. All right. I love that. We're making a bag today though. So let's do this. I'm gonna put up this one screen, or maybe let's see. Can somebody else share the mat list? It's called a mat list duffel bag. It's the materials list for our duffel bag. And let's see, there it is. Okay, so while that's getting on there, I want to get this camera angle. So here are our materials that we're going to be needing for this project today. So we've got our Quilting Cuddle. We're going to be using it for the outside and the inside. We've got some foam interfacing. I'm using the Pellon because that's what I had right now. But you can use soft and stable. You can use the Bosal or any other flex foam. You could even use the automotive headliner if you wanted to. We need something to keep our layers together. And so I've suggested the OD505 temporary adhesive spray or the new glue stick. I love using the glue stick because then I don't have to worry about spraying and getting oversprayed by my machines. I don't have to go somewhere else to do it, like outside or over there, because I don't have good room over there to do it right now. We're going to need a number 5 zipper and 1 or 2 zipper pulls, depending on how you like your zippers to be, plus any hardware that you might want to use, and the webbing or pre-made straps. Because we're sewing with Cuddle fabric, we need a 90-14 stretch needle. Now, I know we've stabilized our fabric, but I still am using a 90-14 stretch needle in my machine. If your machine has trouble going through so many layers like this, then you might want to use a size 116 zipper or even a 110-18, zipper sewing needle. Now, I'm using Smetch needles, and I kind of have a collection of them so that I have what I need when I need it, and I don't have to go stop and run to the store to get what I need. But Schmetz has these great multi-packs of needles, and inside there they include a couple of stretch needles, some of the heavier needles. The pack that you're going to want to look for is their costume sewing accessory needle pack. It's just got a lot of things in there. So otherwise, I'm always sewing with the 90-14 Schmetz stretch sewing machine needle. The other thing that's different about this project that's kind of different from our other Cuddle sewing projects is I'm going to be using a bonded polyester thread. Now, you could use your regular 40 weight or 50 weight sewing polyester thread. Because I'm an embroiderer, I have a lot of glide thread, and so I will often use glide thread to sew with. But for this project, I'm going to be using a bonded polyester thread that the size of the thread, instead of listing it by weight, these threads, these heavier duty threads, are listed in the TEX format. And so this one's TEX 35. It's actually a fairly lightweight bag making thread. It works on my domestic sewing machine, and it comes on bigger cones. If your quilt store sells the bag making patterns, they probably are carrying the bonded polyester threads as well. So you may have to ask for them, because if you're new to making bags, you may not have noticed it before, but that's what I'm using here. I feel like using a bonded polyester thread makes my seams stronger. And when I'm making a bag, that's what I need. I need strong seams. So I don't want my threads to snap or pop. And remember, Cuddle is a stretch fabric, so the fabric can stretch. And if it stretches and my thread pops, then my seam's going to fail, and I don't want that. So the bonded polyester in size TEX 5 is a little bit stronger. So that's what I'm using. The other thing that I've got a permanent felt tip marker, which we use regularly when we sew with Cuddle. I've got my rotary cutter and my mat, my micro serrated scissors, and then, of course, our favorite clover flower head pins and wonder clips. And then I've got my iron on. Yeah, this is unusual for me because I am not an ironer. Okay, but I'm going to use my iron today, and I'll show you why. So I think we're ready to see the overhead view. So let's see. Oh, there we are. Okay, here's my mat. All right, and this is where you can see I have a problem with flat surfaces. So I've got my mat right here, and everything is kind of opposite. It's mirrored, and that's just how it is today. So I'm going to move my little iron. This is an Ironmatic. It's kind of it's like a 7-layer portable ironing surface. And this is so cool because when I iron on it, it does not go through at all. So I can use this right on top of my mat. It's great for making videos. I'll tell you that. So here's my piece of Quilting Cuddle. And as I took it out with that quarter bundle, it was kind of folded beautifully like this and then rolled. So this is how they come. And these little rolls, so cute. But these edges kind of developed a little crease in the packaging. So I wanted to get that crease out because I don't want that on my fabric. But this is what I wanted to show you, is how beautifully Quilting Cuddle irons. So I've got my mini Oliso project iron, and look at this. It's just set on it's almost high, but it's not quite as high as regular. This part's been ironed. Look at that. That crease just fell out so easily. And then I'm ironing over here to get the rest of that crease out. And then we'll see on the other side how that crease has now been taken care of. I'm just going to give this just a little quick press. I'm not really pressing. I am ironing back and forth, back and forth. Cuddle is a stable knit. So even if you stretch it a little bit, it snaps back and it doesn't stay stretched out. So that's one reason I love working with it. It's just so stable and so nice. All right, I'm done with my iron. I'm going to leave it on though because I may need it in a minute, but let's look at our cuddle over here. And now those lines are gone. So another thing I could have done to get rid of those lines is I could have tossed this in a medium heat dryer for just a few minutes and let it fluff out, but the iron was faster and it was here and ready for us to use. Here's my other piece. So these are fat quarters. They're actually a little bit bigger than regular fat quarters. And so I like that because I feel like I have a little bit more wiggle room for my patterns. So this one is 19 inches wide. Okay. And let's see what this measurement for this one is. 19 by, oh, yeah, at least 24 and a half. This looks like 24 and 3/4, but that is a very generous fat quarter. Now, Quilting Cuddle does have a selvage. Okay, so with Luxe Cuddles, we really weren't worried about the selvage, but Quilting Cuddle's thinner. It's made just a little bit differently. And so I'm not going to go all the way up to the selvage. Okay, so I am going to trim off the selvage. And this was a good opportunity for me to show you just how nicely Quilting Cuddle cuts. So I'm going to get this selvage edge right here. And let's see, here we are. There's our selvage edge that we're going to trim off. And unlike Luxe Cuddle or when I'm using just regular C3 Cuddle, I am going to use my rotary cutter. We don't often do that when we use Cuddle unless we have to go fast because we could generate some cuddle dust. But Quilting Cuddle doesn't have a whole lot of cutting dust. And so I'm just going to rotary cut this off. Now I've got this is a Sew Tights mat and ruler. And the ruler has these great little magnets built into it. And so my ruler is not going anywhere. It is stuck to my mat. So that's why I love using it. So I'm not going to accidentally bump it and then go wackadoodle with my cutting. So I'm just going to cut that selvage edge off. And it's gone. And you can see, like I did it with this light gray. I do not have a whole lot of cuddle dust. I mean, there's a few little bits, but it's not bad at all. Okay, so I would have, you know, almost the same amount if I had used regular cotton as well. So that little selvage edge is gone. And I'm going to set that piece aside. And let's see if I have a selvage on this purple piece. Yep, I do. And I can see it on the back. Do you see that where as it was being made, this is the backing on the machine. So as they were putting the fluffy stuff in and printing it and holding on to it on the selvage edges. So I'm just going to cut that off a little bit too. All right. So the pattern asks us to use fat quarters. And so I've got fat quarters and my fat quarters are a little bit bigger. But what we're going to do is we're going to quilt them and then trim it down to size to use. Okay. So I got rid of those pieces that I trimmed off. This purple is so nice and pretty. Helen, yes, you can use a marker on the back. And I'll show you the kind of marker I use. I use a permanent felt tip pen. And this is the super skinny ones, the ultra fine point. Any permanent marker works well. But if I need to make markings, I'm going to use something like this. You can see those fine little marks that it made. The backing for Quilting Cuddle is really nice and smooth. And your other writing or sewing markers may work. This is a sew line. Let's put it on black. And this may work too, but you can see how the tip kind of grabs the fabric just a little bit. It's not rough or sharp or anything, but it doesn't make as clean of a mark or as dramatic as a mark as the permanent marker. So that's why I like using the permanent marker. But one thing to keep in mind, and I say this all the time, but I have to remind myself too, is we want to keep our marks in the selvage area or in the seam allowance. Sorry, we just cut off the selvage. We don't have that anymore, but we want to keep our marks in the seam allowance so that if our fabric is thin or if we've used a heavy hand when we're using our Sharpie, so just drop that down. If we're kind of heavy-handed and we push down, we don't get any of this ink bleeding through to the other side. You know, I keep saying this, and it's only happened once that I've seen, but let's try this dark red. Yeah, I saturated that pretty good and it's still not showing through on this light sand. But just for safety's sake, I'm going to keep my markings all at the edge. Okay. I just don't want a giant can of worms. Oh my goodness. Yes, this is a giant can of worms. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to grab my pattern here, which is underneath this other computer. And I've got my pattern. So if you want to pick up the pattern, I downloaded the PDF version from Natalie's shop, and I'm just going to show you the cover. So this is the one we're doing, okay, the simple mini duffel, and I am not going to show you the pages. Okay, I'm going to set them over here. This is Natalie's pattern. I want to respect her copyright, and if you want to make this bag, go pick up the pattern. So I've got everything else that I needed here. I've got my zipper, I've got my hat webbing, and I've got my flex foam, which if you're, she actually says flex foam right here. Here's the number for that flex foam, FF79F2. That's exactly what I'm using, a double-sided flex foam. And, if you already have soft and stable, you can use that. Now, the flex foam is fusible on both sides. This one, the FF79F2, is fusible on both sides. But Quilting Cuddle is pretty thick, even though it's not as thick as regular C3 Cuddle. So I'm thinking that instead of fusing my fabric to the flex foam, what I would like to do instead is to use a temporary adhesive like the 505. So I've got my glue stick. And what I'm going to do in order to get it to stick to the flex foam instead of ironing it is I'm going to just dab my glue stick on the back of my fabric and I'm going to pat it down. Now, look at that. Oh, just so nice. And then it gives you an opportunity to pat your fabric. Now, remember we talked about how Cuddle has a nap. So if you rub it one way, you can actually see it kind of change in the light here. It's hard on this one because it's so modeled, but one way is a little bit shinier and clearer. So when I rub up, it gets a little bit blurry. It's doing that to me too, even here looking at it. And then the print is cleaner when I stroke it down. So up, blurry, down. That's the way the nap is going on this. Because this isn't directionally printed though, I'm not going to treat it as a directional fabric like I did with the other one. Let's get this all glued down and then I'll tell you kind of why. And I'm putting, just some dots on it. I'm putting it on the foam so I can kind of tap it down. It doesn't have to be here forever. And so I could fuse it, but I don't want to work that hard right now. I don't want to work that hard ever, actually. So I'm going to smooth my Cuddle onto the flex foam right here. And because I just whacked this chunk off the bolt, my edges aren't very straight, but that's okay. I'm just going to take care. And when I get my other piece on the back for my quilt sandwich, I'm going to try to line it up really well. Okay. I'm just dabbing this on here. I just love this glue stick so much. I didn't know you could love a thing like a glue stick, but here I am. Oh my goodness, I see Audrey here too. Great. Oh, and Brenda. Hi, Brenda. Yeah, it's just gorgeous. And so this is so fun to work with. All right, so this purple is going to be the outside too. So I'm excited about that. And I'm going to use the cloudy one on the inside. So there's our purple. It's on. Now the glue stick's here. If I wanted to make it directional, like this version, okay, where my flower's going up on this side and my flower is also going up on this side, what I would do is I would find the center of my pieces and I would cut it in half and then seam them together, flip one of them so that both sides would be going the same direction. Do you see my center seam down here at the bottom? You can kind of see it. I haven't fluffed out my fibers yet, so you can kind of see the background just a little bit, but that's my center seam. So this side's going down, this is the top down, and this side's going down from the top down. So that's how you treat a directional fabric, so that if you're making something with like cats on it. One side has the cats and they're looking at you, and the other side has the cats upside down. So I'm thinking about it like that. Anyway, that's how you would treat a directional fabric. And Cuddle is directional because it has a nap. So let's put our other piece on. I can kind of see through the flex foam where those dots of glue are. So that's really helpful. And I can kind of see the shadow of where my fabric is. So I'm going to use that as kind of my guide. Oops. Sorry, I bumped that with my elbow. Just trying to be all stable here. Okay, let's get this piece on. All right, so we're going to put some glue on this. And this glue is going to dissipate after a while. So even though I can see the blue now, I won't be able to see it later. It's just going to evaporate and be gone. The other thing too, we have to do some setup things to our machine. So while we're doing that, that gives this glue time to cure a little bit, and it won't be sticky. 505, I've never had a problem with it gumming up my needle, but some people do worry about the glue gumming up their needle. And I learned this trick recently that if you let your glue cure for a minute, then it shouldn't gum up your needle at all. So take a minute, go get a drink, or do something else for a minute, and let the dog out, do what you got to do. But then your glue should be cured and it won't gum up your needle. Let's get that back just a little bit. Oh, I see. My foam is pressing on my tripod. Sorry. So let's get this over here. I do want this to be all kind of adhered down well. I'm going way too far over there, aren't I? No, that's all right. All right, I want it to be adhered down well because I can't see through it, right? So this is when you're doing a quilt and you're making your quilt sandwich, your backing piece is usually bigger than your batting, and then the batting is bigger than the front piece, so you can kind of see what's happening through all those layers. Well, we don't have that opportunity here. All we've got is what we've got. So I'm thinking carefully, and then I'm remembering too, I've got to relax and remember that I'm going to be trimming, a bunch of this away to trim it down to the right size. This little flap wasn't quite sticking, so I'm going to give them a little bit more glue. All right, now we've got our pieces adhered to our flex foam, and this is good. Okay, I'm happy with this. Now, the first thing that we've got to do is we've got to quilt this, and there's lots of options that we can use. A lot of people, when they're quilting stuff for bags, they could, you could use your long arm, and you could take it over, and then you could do your long arm quilting. You could put this in your embroidery machine and do some edge-to-edge quilting on it. All of those are great options. I don't have time to do that here, but I do have time to do a little straight line quilting. So I wanted to show you how I set up Cuddle for straight line quilting. Now, sometimes when we're using a solid Cuddle, we can actually draw lines on it with something like a hero marker. This is my Clover stiletto. So it's not a metal stiletto like the one we usually use, but it's kind of a plastic. It's not sharp, but I don't want to poke myself with it. But it's just nice. And so we could draw ourselves some visual lines. You can kind of see the lines happening as I draw it across the fabric, but I can't see them for very long. And because this has so much print on it, that's not really going to help me here. Let me show you on a solid Cuddle. So this is Leaf Quilting Cuddle, this gorgeous green that I used for the lining of the other bag. And so if I were to draw lines on it, you can kind of see the imprint of those lines. And I could draw some squiggles. I could do some, flowers and leaves, and I could follow these with my sewing machine all the way down, right? I could do all kinds of fancy things. But because I'm trying to go quickly, I'm going to do some straight line quilting, but because my fabric is so textured with the pattern, I can't see that really well. So this is my secret trick. I mean, it's not a secret. I've got pink masking tape. This is just painter's tape, and mine just happens to be pink because it has to be pink. And I'm just going to lay lines with my masking tape equally spaced all across my fabric. And then these lines are going to help me keep my quilting even all the way down. Because what I do know about myself is that I cannot stay on a straight line while I'm sewing. I kind of veer off, you know, like a little crazy. It's fine. I'm going to use tape to help me keep it straight. So this tape, that one's not quite to the edge. So I'm going to itch it right here. It's easy to peel off. It doesn't stick to the fibers for forever. It gives me enough visual so that I can stitch. I'm not going to stitch with the tape. No, I'm going to stitch. I might stitch right down the center of these areas. I could stitch right on the edge of these pieces of tape. However much quilting I need is how densely I could quilt this. So this is a fat quarter, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of tape. That's not a whole lot. All right, so it didn't take me long at all, but it's going to help me do some quilting. So let's do that. Let's move the camera over here so we can quilt this together. All right, and let me move all the supplies out of the way. And I might go a little bit closer. Let's see. Let's see if I can get down just a little bit closer for you. Somebody said that Stephanie said she recently bought a red line guide light attachment for sewing machine. Nice. That does help a lot with keeping the line straight. And that also, you know, assumes that you're really good at driving straight through those lines too, right? All right, let's move all these. I was using these earlier. Scissors up, grabbies up, put my rotary cutter away, and put my stiletto up so it doesn't fall down and hit launches. I brought a piece of chalk too because I wanted to show you. You might draw your lines with chalk on here. It shows up a little bit, but it doesn't show up a whole lot just because there's so much going on. On a darker cuddle, you might want to use a tailor's chalk, but for me, the taping is just the easiest thing at this point. Audrey, your autocorrect. You know what? Autocorrect is the bane of all of our existence. You're totally fine. One thing I'm going to do really quickly is my phone gave me a notification that it's running out of juice, and I don't want to ping this in the middle. So there. Okay, I just plugged it in. We should be okay now. Let's make sure my power came on because I'm using my phone to stream this. All right. So, okay, let's see. Oops, it went away. Okay, hold on. It's coming back up. Allow. Start. Settings. Oh, goodness. Hurry, hang on. You can see my ceiling. That's not really good. We want to use the back camera. Thank you for hanging in here with me. I just don't want the camera to go off at the end of it. All right, let's see. Back camera. Are we in? All right. I don't know who's in here with me now. Let's see. Ajer was in here with me earlier, and Kristen was here. Let's see. Ginger might be here now. Let's see. Oh, Audrey wants to know what my shirt says. Oh, this is so funny, y'all. This is my new sewing shirt. So, because I got to go to the store later. Sorry, can't. Quilting. Bye. Can't talk. Got to go sew. It's so funny. All right. Okay. Let's see. Go back to there. Oops. All right.
I'm here.
Hi, Ginger's here. Everybody say hi to Ginger. I'm looking for my
my internet's really slow here at the office.
You know, it's just if it's not the internet, it's the tech, right? Okay, I think I can see my camera from my end now. Can you see my sewing camera from your end?
I can't.
Okay, let's see.
Add it to the stage. Oh, there we go. Now we can see it. Let's see. Let me make it the solo layout. There we go.
Okay, good. And I've muted that
microphone
switch. Yay, we did it. Okay. See, it takes an army for us to do these videos. Literally.
It really it really does. Okay, back to sewing.
All right. Ginger, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you made it. Ginger's been traveling today. So, all right. So we're going to do some straight line quilting, but let me show you how I have my machine set up. So what I have on here for straight line quilting is I've got my straight stitch plate on my sewing machine. And I also have my little bitty tiny little foot on my sewing machine instead of the walking foot. I know we're supposed to be using a walking foot. I don't even think I can take it off because it's a whole unit like right here. But I love the way that my Janome handles straight line quilting. And so that's what I'm going to use. So I've got the HP plate, which is my straight stitch plate. It doesn't have a big hole underneath the needle. You know what? I'm just going to take it off and show you. Because what I have found, see that one little hole right there? I don't think I can zoom in. Yeah, I think I could grab it and drag it over there. There we go. So there's one little hole underneath the needle, not a big bar that's open. With plates that have that big bar, it sometimes wants to take your fabric down with it into that bar. And so I'm using this straight stitch plate so that as I sew, my fabric doesn't get eaten by the machine. I know that you know what I'm talking about when I say it like that. We don't want our fabric to get eaten down into the bobbin area. All right, let's twist this guy on. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. I don't even know if I'm doing it right now. Let's see. Going the wrong way. All right, let's get him screwed back on there. I just wanted to show you that hole in the straight stitch plate. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to simply sew lines of quilting on this quilt sandwich. I'm going to raise my stitch length. Can you see that on my screen? I think my big window right here is too much. But I've got my stitch length set at 3.5, and it's just a straight stitch for this plate. Your sewing machine manual will tell you what you need to do to your machine to do a straight stitch, just for regular straight stitching. I've just raised my stitch length, so instead of having tiny little quilting stitches, I've got great big top stitching. Okay, the other thing that I've done is I have released the presser foot pressure. So on my machine, that's right here, I have a knob on top, and I can change the pressure of how much the foot is pushing down on the fabric. If I am using silky or slinky fabrics like silk or chiffon or satin, I want the presser foot to be holding onto my fabric for me. But because I'm using thicker fabrics like Cuddle, Quilting Cuddle, Luxe Cuddle, any Cuddle fabric, it's a thicker fabric, and I don't necessarily want the presser foot to be pushing down on my fabric so much, because if it pushes down on my fabric, what happens, especially when I have something like this foam interfacing in here, when it pushes down, the edges of my fabric may curl up around the foot and they may get caught. Okay, so I'm using my finger just kind of push on that really dramatically. And you see how it just flipped up? I didn't even do that. It just flipped up around my finger. That's what could happen if I don't release the pressure foot pressure. Okay, so I don't have it at 0. It's not no pressure. It's just almost no pressure. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to really quickly do some of this straight line quilting. And let's see, I've got 5 pieces of tape. I've got this much wide. I think I'm just going to give it a go and just go, I'm going to go down the middle of each one because, let's see, let's get it started. Okay, there we go. I just need to get some quilting on here to hold these layers together. Okay. And I'm kind of keeping everything flat. That presser foot pressure, even with that, I'm still having to use some of my body weight to help it move. This is not like using your embroidery machine where you just push the button and let it go. No, we actually have to do some things. So I'm holding onto it with my hands, making sure everything stays nice and flat as I go down through this. And I'm going to go all the way to the edge. And I'm going to kind of sew off my fabric there and then cut the thread. Okay. Do you see how lovely that is? Now, I'm using just kind of a beigey brown upholstery thread. That's what this is. Yeah, it's actually called light beige. Yeah, super fancy. I'm not matching my thread at all, and I'm going to sew this whole bag with this thread. So with Cuddle, we don't really see the threads unless we do things to the fabric so that we can see the threads, like use a topper or something like that. I'm just using a neutral thread because I don't really see the thread. I see the effect of the thread, but I don't see the thread. Okay, let's do another one. Let's just get some. Whoa, I just pushed it right off there. That's fun. Let's fix that. Sorry. All right. The other thing too, like, I mean, this would be, this is pretty quick. You could put as much quilting into your quilting cuddle, into your layers as you want to. And you could spend a lot of time doing that. Look how it looks on the back. Isn't that cool? It's already so cool. See that texture? All right. Normally, I would want to put more lines than we're going to put in this, but I think it's going to be just fine for this. So this is what we're going to go with. I'm going to move my foot out of the way. And because I'm trying to straddle that distance between the lines, I'm going to try to keep this one at about the same distance, double checking that my back piece is not flapping around under there. And then putting that line. I'm up against the wall back here, so I'm just going to go all the way down. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah, Clovis, I agree. I don't like it when my fabric gets stuck down in the hole either. That's why I've learned to use the straight stitch plate. And check to see if your machine didn't come one, check to see if there's one available. You can get it. Because a lot of machines now are coming with those, really robust accessory packages. But I know for a while they didn't, just you had to go search out your accessories for your models. So check and see what's available. Now, because of the way my machine cuts my threads, and I'm using this bigger thread, I'm pulling it out a little bit just so I don't have to rethread my needle all the time. I learned that from what I was doing the other day. So, because I'm doing things differently than what we would normally do for quilting, I've got to think about this. Okay, so bag making is kind of its own whole different thing. Did I run out of bobbin thread, y'all? I cannot believe I did run out of bobbin thread. He's gone. Let's put a new bobbin in. I've got a new bobbin right over here. I did. I'm glad I had one. Otherwise, we'd be digging for bobbins. What is this thread? This is not the right bobbin thread. Oh, here it is. Goodness. It's got a little piece of fuzz on it. I don't want that in my machine. You know what? I don't like that bobbin thread either. Let's get something out of my goodie box over here. Let's get the right bobbin thread. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, here's our bobbin thread. I'm using a pre-wound polyester bobbin. Those other two bobbins were cotton thread. That's why I didn't want to use them. And remember, when we're sewing with Cuddle polyester fabric, I'm going to use a polyester thread. Okay. The upholstery thread that I'm using is also a polyester thread. You can get a bonded nylon thread to use, but I didn't want to use nylon. I wanted to use polyester, so I got the polyester. All right, I'm going to start a little bit further up in there, kind of following my stitch, because I don't necessarily want to back stitch in the middle of everything. All right. Oops. I didn't pull my bobbin thread up. That was my... Oh, no, I didn't. It wasn't that. It was that I didn't screw my... Oh, my goodness. See? Live on camera and everything happens. If only I had checked my bobbin beforehand. I did everything but check my bobbin. And now I'm going to double check that I didn't bend my needle. My needle is still flat. Yeah, it's still flat. Okay. So I rolled it to see if it was still flat. And then I'm going to put it back in here. Did I bring my glasses? No. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. This is the hardest part, is finding the hole for my needle. Once I find the hole, it'll be fine. Let's do the foot first. I'm going to take the foot off so that I can see that down up in there. Okay, take the foot off. Find the flat back of your needle. Put it in. my needle bar up. Yep, of course. Just double checking everything. There it is. All right, right there. We're in. I'm going to tighten up the screw. I'm just telling you what I'm doing so that I'm not doing this all by myself. Okay, we're all in this together, right? All right, now I'm going to put my foot back on. Screw it on. Goodness, it wasn't on at all. Did I even screw that on? Y'all. All right, let's get a fresh end so we can thread the needle. Okay, needle's threaded. The nice thing too, y'all, if you haven't used bonded polyester thread, it threads through your needle so easily because it doesn't come apart like regular sewing thread because it's bonded together. So it's easy to poke it through the eye of your needle. All right, let's cut these threads off over here because I want a clean look. And I'll deal with the back side in a minute. And again, let's start right there. Okay. I'm going to start up in there. There we go. Now we're stitching. Now we're stitching. And I'm just going to put that long line into that thread. And we've got one more to do. Okay. So I'm just quilting down the length of it because these are going to be the, I take them out. This little edge in here is a little bit wrinkly. I just want to control it. All right. Now I've got all my quilting lines done. And I'm going to show you the back side. See, do you see that texture on there? Do you see how those lines did it? All right. This is where I needed to start my bobbin off. So I'm going to clip that real close. And there's a little piece of that bobbin thread from the beginning. Get rid of those. Stick to the top. There's a little thread right here. And now I'm going to take, clip off some of those threads. I can take my painter's tape off. And this did not mar my fabric at all. Okay. That's why you want to use painter's tape and not like, you don't want masking tape or duct tape. Painter's tape is just fine. And you can get it at the hardware store. You can get it at the grocery store. So sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's pink. If you look around, you can find it in fun colors to match your sewing room too. Whatever makes you happy. All right, let's see. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut this to size. All right, so I'm going to get my pattern. Come over here, and we're going to cut it to size. And I could treat my edges by serging them, but I may not do that today just to save time. And I'm trying to make sure this is going to stand and not tip over. Okay, there we are. All right, so we're going to cut this down to size. All right, so Audrey sets her tape to use again. Yeah, I stuck it to the side. Did y'all see that? I don't even know if you saw that. I did set it down to use again. I may want to use it again in just a minute. All right, so I've quilted it. Let's get my pattern. I'm going to cut it to the right size. Yep. All right, so we're going to square it up. So I'm thinking about, like, see how my back piece, this back piece of the cloudy was a little bit bigger than my purple piece. That's perfect because I'm going to try to get it as close to 18 inches by the pattern measurements as we can. I almost said it. Sorry. The pattern, the size you need is in the pattern. My ruler's upside down. The magnets don't work when the ruler's upside down. But it is nice because they do hold through all these layers. 2 layers of Quilting Cuddle plus the flex foam, which is really nice so that I can get a good clean cut here. Okay. Now I'm cutting around on camera, so this is a little awkward. Let's tip that just a bit. There we go. Okay, there's my one clear flat edge. I did go all the way through. I just didn't grab it all. Okay, that is gone. Let's cut that off there and set that aside. Okay, I've got one good flat edge, And now I'm going to think about 18. I'm going to think about the pattern measurements. So let's do a second clean flat edge. For the small or the baby and the mama sizes, there's different measurements for these pieces. So you want to pay attention to what size you need. All right, this, I need to have it this way so I can measure. All right, so what I'm going to do, perfect. All right, that's perfect over there. And let's see if I got my measurements good over here. That's going to be just fine. All right. So I'm going to square up this side. And remember, I squared up this side, so this side will be all right. I'm going to cut that off there. And all crafty people have to have a sense of humor. Yeah, because things happen, Ellen. Things just happen, and sometimes there's nothing we can do about it. We just got to roll with it, right? So we might as well have a laugh, roll with it, build ourselves a little padded room. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. All right. There's my piece up to the measurements I need. I'm going to get rid of those extra pieces right here. And now I've got my little quilt sandwich that is perfect for what we need to do. Set my ruler aside. Okay. Now, what I should do, and I'm going to skip doing that for this one, is I should go ahead and like zigzag these down, right? Or serge the edges down. I'm not going to do that because that's a little bit extra time. That would be the right thing to do right now. You know what? You know what? Let's go ahead and do it. My serger's right here. Can y'all forgive my mess for just a second? And we'll do it. I'm just going to move the camera. Why don't we go to the materials list? My serger is actually booting up. It actually does have to boot up because it has a computer on the inside. So it's booting up. All the motors are getting into place. I've got it set up for serging with a nice overlock anyway. So let's go ahead and go over here. I think I can move the camera without getting too crazy. Let's see. The only thing is it's got my power cord attached to it. Oh, you guys, did y'all see that? Oh no, you can see the rest of my room. No, it's so bad. Can we see that? This is, you know what we're going to do? Let me get rid of that power cord really quickly and just move it over here so you can see it. Oh, goodness. Y'all, this is true confessions time. Now you can see how I really live. Oh, now they know. Okay, I'm going to run over the edges. Let me put that right in front of the surgery. I'm just running over the edges. I'm barely trimming off anything, but what I've got is I've got a 3-thread overlock, and I've got a woolly poly in the looper. Okay, so I've got regular serger thread in the needles, 2 needles, and woolly poly in the looper. Okay, and I'm just gonna, this is sealing those edges. Okay, so it makes it a little bit flatter right there. Makes it a little bit easier to handle, and that way my front and my back pieces are not going to be all flapping, because I used a temporary adhesive. If I had used the fuse of the material, then my pieces wouldn't be flapping at the edges, but because I didn't, and I just used the temporary adhesive glue stick or the temporary adhesive spray, my edges, once the adhesive's does its thing and quits being adhesive because it is temporary, then those edges kind of flap. All right. Who do I think you are? I know that you guys all have sewing rooms like this too. This is like true life here, right? I do want you to know that the laundry is done and the dishes are done, which is crazy for being this early in the morning and that sort of thing. All right, let's get these edges serged. One of the things too that you might think about when you're serging, the same things that you do for your sewing machine, you want to take those things into consideration with your serger too. So I have lessened the presser foot pressure. I've pulled my presser foot pressure all the way down to 1 on this machine. I have increased my differential. So that's like using a walking foot. It's not really, but it's kind of. And then I am using a 9014 stretch needle because I was serging with Cuddle. And so that's what's in here. I've also lengthened my stitch length. I don't need this to wrap the edge and be like a solid roll of stitch, but I have a longer stitch length because I'm doing it. So those are all things to consider. All right. We're done with that. That's all done. All right. Let's come back over here where the fun is. Now you know. All right. Now we know where everything is. Yeah. I know where well, honestly, I can't say that I actually do know where everything is. So that's part of the problem. Okay. Let's come over here. So the next step is our handles. Now I'm using pre-done webbing that I put in a safe place so that I wouldn't lose it. And I did lose it. No, here's our webbing right here. So what I've got to do is I've got to make some marks on this. So I've got to think about, this is my bag. This is my top and bottom. Remember, if this was directional and I wanted the nap to be going down on both sides, I would have split my fabric and then seamed it back up by flipping it, right? Okay. Sign of a productive person. Yeah, that's what we're going to say here, Jackie. Sign of a productive person. Okay, so the pattern has you make some marks so that you have a place to know where your handles need to go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find those places on my pattern. So the first thing I want to know, because I don't have a line for that seam to know where my middle is, I'm going to put a piece of, again, the painter's tape. So see, I had saved it so I could use it now. And that's my middle. That's going to be the center middle. Now, with painter's tape, I've got to decide which side is the side I'm talking about. So my center is this side right here. So I'm just going to make myself a note on my tape with my permanent marker so that I know. I need to do the same thing to this side. Okay. And it's kind of, look, I'm looking at it. So, oh, it's a little bit closer to this side. See, because I didn't put so many lines of stitching, I don't have an exact thing, but I'm going to put my tape right here, kind of where that fold is. And again, on something solid like that leaf green, I could just kind of draw on it with my fingernail or with a Hera marker or that Clover stiletto. This is my true center. So I'm going to call this is the vertical center. Okay. Now, in the pattern, she tells you where to put your markings for these other runs. And so I'm going to put my tape where it's indicated for these other places. All right. And yep, that's what I thought. Okay. So I'm going to put my tape here for this one. I need this line here. And then I'm measuring from the side of the tape, right? So it's going to look visually a little bit different because I'm going from here to here and then from here to here. Actually, let's do this because it's that side that we're measuring to, right? So there to there and there to there. So this one has to go a little closer. Oh, that is super technical measuring, right? There, fingernail. I know, you'll do it too. Don't tell me you don't. All right, and this side to this side. And then also, so there's my line for there. And then I need 2 more for where the handles end. And that is inches right here from the end. So that one's going to go here. I'm not necessarily going to go all the way across because I'm reusing some of that tape. And this one's going to go right here. And this just ensures when we do all these measurements that it's symmetrical for the sides. That way our handles are in the right place. Okay. So this is that number for me right there on this side. And I'm just drawing arrows to show which side I'm measuring to. Okay. So now we take our strap, and if you've measured your strap, what I need to do is I need to seam these together. So I'm thinking about how thick this is. Okay, so this is thick, this nylon webbing or seatbelt material, whatever you're using. This is thick, and I don't necessarily want to have a seam where I sew right sides together and then do that. You can. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to sew over it and have a flat seam. And I'm just going to put a few stitches in it as I run across. Okay, so then I'll have, oops, I need to make sure I have I need to make sure my loop isn't twisted. But this is functionally going to be just a big loop. Now I could zigzag that, but because I have that straight stitch plate on, I actually can't zigzag it because I've got just a straight stitch plate. And I'd have to change the foot. Y'all don't want to see me do that again. All right, so now what I'm doing is I'm measuring everything. I'm kind of lining my handle up according to the pattern, right? And my handles are going to go on these lines that I've made, and I'm making sure that where my straps go is exactly where I've indicated, okay, that they should go. All right, and then this little seam where I had the loop, where I joined it, is going to be the center seam on the bottom. Okay, so that's why I did that. That way everything is equal. It's all divided out. And I'm going to start putting some pins in. All right, so we haven't even used any pins yet. And normally with Cuddle, we're just pinning everything. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove some of this tape. I don't need that anymore. So let's get that out of the way. Once we've done this part, everything else is easy peasy, I promise. This is just a little bit of math, and it's very clear in the pattern where to do everything. So follow the instructions. And that is one thing I have to say, and I'm not just saying that because Natalie's here. I love a good pattern. I love a good, well-written pattern. And so this pattern has such clear instructions that it is simple for you to pick it up, make one of these, and have a beautiful bag at the end of it. And that's the goal, right? Is to have a beautiful bag. All right, so this is the indication at the top. Now, at the top of these strap runs, I'm going to be doing a little box so that my straps are on really well. You may have seen other bag makers do this, and we're doing the same thing. We're just going to put a little box. So this indicates where our strap is. That's the top edge right here. So I'm going to put a pin where the top edge is going to be. All right. And then we're going to do this side over here. Okay, so this is my edge, and I'm going to put a pin right here. This is the top of the box. And my boxes, I'm going to try to keep all my boxes the same size, but things happen. So the nice thing is we're using cuddle fabric, right? So we have a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm not going to stress out about it too much. Let me tear this off just to get that out of the way. And I can still kind of see my line from the tape. So I'm going to line that back up again. I've got this vertical right here that I want to keep track of. All right there. I'm going to put my pin in there just to help me know where to put my little box. I've got just a couple of pins to put in. Now, this is another case for those, these long clover flower head pins that we like, because they're long and they're strong. And I'm going through all these layers, and I want everything to be held together without bending my pins. So now what I'm going to do, after I remove all this tape, is I'm going to sew down each of these sides of the straps. Okay, so I'm going to start with a little box on each side, and I'm going to sew down those straps. It sounds silly, but we actually are almost done. All right, so let's, same thing, just like we did before. This is a little bit thicker, so listen to your machine and listen to see how it's sewing. Is it happy? Do you need to make some adjustments? Do you need to double check that your needle's not about to fall out like mine was earlier? So I'm just turning my bag, and then I'm going backwards to get to that other side. And I've got my needle so that it stops down in the fabric. That's another thing to think about setting your machine to. So it's called a needle stop down. A lot of times patchwork people use it. patchwork people. Those are called quilters. They use it so they can get nice corners, but bag makers can use it too to make this part of doing their bags easily. So I can lift my presser foot, but my needle's still there and I haven't gone too far off the plan. All right, so I'm going to go backwards down that row. And now I've got my, no, I don't have my box all the way down. I got to come back down here. Okay. Then I'm going to do this angle of the box. So it's a box with an X basically. Okay. Now I'm going to stop there. My needle's still down there. Remove this pin so I don't sew over it. And then I'm going to come straight down over here into the other end and then do the box over here. Let's get a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. What stitch length am I using? I'm actually using that same 3.5 millimeter long stitch. Okay. So, and I took my, I have the knee hands-free system on this machine, but I took it off and then didn't put it back on. And so I put it somewhere safe. Y'all know how that is. It's safe. All right. I'll turn a little bit of an so I want to turn that off. Okay. Let's see. Oops. I just did that. I just took those pins out while I was looking at the comments. See if I missed anything. And now I have to remind myself where my line was to be. All right. So the other thing too, let me see if you can see this side yet. No. Can you see my box yet? This is my original box that I did over here, and I've got one side down there. So it adds a little bit more quilting, but my straps are nice and stable. So I'm going to go across to the other side of the strap, put my needle down at the end, and my machine's just set so the needle stays down. Okay, so I'm kind of remembering how many stitches that box was on the other side. I'm doing the same thing over there that I do over here. And I want to keep all my boxes consistent. So, you know, if your box was 7 stitches down each edge, then you'll have a nice rectangle. Just remember to do the same thing every time. Okay, that's all. And I'm just kind of spinning my fabric. Having the needle stop down makes it really easy. And I'm going to go backwards and back up to that previous corner. I have to press it now. I'm going to back up to that corner. Then come over here to this side, and I'll have to go to that other corner diagonally. And I am going to spin it all the way around and come toward me. One more stitch. And now we're ready. Let's see, those pins were under there. Send those away so that I don't drop them. Because the last thing I want to do is step on a pin. Nobody wants that. And now we're just going to go all the way back down this side. Now that skinny little foot wants to get stuck right there. So again, my needle's down, so I can just stop, manipulate my foot a little bit to get that little flap under there. Totally fine, no big deal. This webbing is so cute. It's got little hearts. It's got a Southwest look, and of course it's purple, so it matches my quilting cuddle, or coordinates with it really well. Okay, that is the strap done on this side. So let's do this other one really quickly. I'm going to make my box starting over here. I'm going to take my pen out because I don't want to run over the pen. It was just telling me that's where my box needs to be. There's a little bit of tape there. I'm going to get rid of that because I don't want to sew over any tape either. So that's the thing. If we're doing things differently, like using tape instead of making markings, we need to remember to take our tape out. Box. I think that was 7. Might have been 8. I'm going to go backwards to this top corner. I'm going to go down the other side of my box. I'm going to go across. Now this box is completely done. So when I come back up this next side, I can just, go all the way to the top of my box and end my thread there. All right, so I'm ready to go down this side. And I'm kind of rolling this up just to keep the bulk of it out of the way. But everything's secure with all the pins. So Nothing's going to get away from me or go crazy. Y'all know sometimes that happens. Sometimes things just go crazy. So I'm just keeping everything under control. I'm trying to. I guess control is an illusion. Okay, here's where I'm going to get up to the next box. Okay, at the top. I'm going to turn, do a box over here. I'm going to go backwards. I'm just going backwards because that's the amount of room I have right now with the camera over my shoulder. Okay, I'm going to come back this way. Then I'm going to come toward me for the other diagonal. Let's see, I already got the camera. It's kind of giving me a little hug here. The camera is. Let's see why you tilted. And then I'm going to come across the bottom. Now my box is done. So that's nice and secure. That means that the box just means that when I'm holding onto the handles, it's not going to be pulling away. My thread's not going to fail so that the whole strap comes off. That box is just like an extra security. Oh, you know what? And I already stitched down that side. So let's spin it down this way. And let's go back down the other side of the strap. Because we're actually done here once we get this one on. Just keeping my strap nice and flat, all the way down. All right. Here we go. That's the end. Oh, strap. There's more pins. I'm sure I knocked a couple on the floor. So let's see. I cut my thread. This is what it looks like from the back. Oops. Strap out under the foot. Look how cute that is. So the straps actually just added a couple of more quilting lines. You see the little box right there? Let's get it in the shadow just right. Now maybe you can see this box better. The little box right there with the X in it. That's our little box at the top of the straps. Now there's just a couple of little threads. I'm not going to worry about those right now, but if this was yours, you want to do your trimming and get all your threads, you know, tidy because we don't want to sew over those. I am done with this piece of tape. And so I'm going to go ahead and take it off. All right. So my marking, I'm done. I might use it later. Maybe not. Okay. So now our handles are on. You can see how our handles are on. They're nice and straight down the middle of our bag. And we're ready to put our zipper in. So now what I need to do is I need to get ready to put my zipper in. I've already serged this edge. And for me, what I'm doing right now is I'm going to put a zipper in, but what I did when I made the bag before is I finished the edge after I put the zipper in. And so what I'm going to do this time is instead of finishing the edge after the zipper, I'm going to say that this is going to be good because we're going to sew the zipper in, then we're going to top stitch it down. And because I've already serged this, that's a nice clean edge anyway, right? The zippers that I'm using, these are from Sally Tomato, just in case you need a great place to get some cool zippers. This is her vintage modern set, and it has a bunch of different colors of zippers. I just love buying zippers like this because I get a nice assortment, and I'm going to grab a zipper pull that matches. These pulls go with these zippers, so I don't have to do any zipper math. Not zipper math. The pattern tells you what size to do, but I've done this before. I'm just going to grab some zipper, cut a little bit off. I am using a zipper that's longer than my bag. That's important. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and put the zipper in. So this is longer than I need, right? Let's see. Marianne, that's a great question. This is a number 5 zipper. And so if you're going to use a number 4.5 zipper, zippers are so weird. They're not weird. They're actually, there is a system. 5 means the teeth are 5 millimeters across. Because of that, you need a zipper pull that matches your zipper. So you need a number 5 zipper pull to go on a number 5 zipper. You can use a regular zipper that doesn't separate like this one separates at the top and the bottom, so we could put it in. I just like using these for bags. So you absolutely could use a regular zipper. And I did on one of those bigger bags. I had a sport zipper that was like a jacket kind of zipper. And I just put that on there. Okay, so in order for my zipper to stay on here while I'm sewing it, I haven't changed my foot. I'm not going to put a zipper foot on. And honestly, I rarely use a zipper foot anyway. I just sew it on flat because my zipper pull isn't even on yet, so it's not in the way. So I'm going to pin my zipper on with the edge right at the edge of the fabric. So the zipper edge matches the edge here. Can you use the cutoff of the zipper? Yes, Helen, I do use the cutoff of the zipper. And because I did this bag before, I know that I have exactly this much left. So I put that back in my box, and the box has more pulls, so I have another project out of that zipper. That's a great question. And if you have even little cuts of zippers, there's all kinds of cool things that you can do with little cuts of zippers too. Now, I'm going to sew this on. In the pattern, she tells you several times. So sometimes we're using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Sometimes we're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. She tells you exactly what seam allowance to use. So right here, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance for my zipper. Let me tighten my foot again. Let me double check that. I did my handles. Let's go to the next page. Also, I couldn't find a stapler, so I'm going to show y'all what I did. You're going to laugh at me. I couldn't find my stapler, so I just sewed my pages together so I wouldn't lose them because I kept knocking them down, and then I'd have to put them back in order again. So I just sewed them together. All right. Yeah, the zipper goes on with a 1/4 inch seam. It's important to pay attention, though. Some pattern makers will tell you that you need to use a 1/4 inch seam for the whole thing. I like how we have some room to use different seam allowances because we're doing different things, and I think that's really important. We're not always doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Or if you're a garment sewer, we're not always doing a 5/8 inch seam allowance. So just pay attention to what the pattern says. This is another tip. Reading the pattern through all the way will help you be ready for those things when they happen in the pattern. All right, so I am all the way down on this side. Okay, and now, let's see, am I top stitching it yet? No, I'm going to line the zipper up first. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Maybe I'm not top stitching this one. I feel like I've done so many bags. Like, are we top stitching? Yeah, we are top stitching. I'm double checking this. We did top stitch on that. All right. Sew the zipper, fold the panel. Yeah, we are top stitching. Okay. But we're going to sew the other side on first. And this is what I think is kind of cool. So she has you match up the other zippers so that before we've done the top stitching, everything's going to match. So I'm going to match my side seams up. And then I'm going to pin this side of the zipper to the other side of the bag. The right sides are on the inside. Oops. This pin is seeing some things. And I'm just going to pin the same way I did this side, but I want to match up my edges first because that way everything comes out right. And if there's any discrepancies in my panels from edge to edge, which y'all saw me use a rotary cutter, and a ruler, I did make an attempt to keep everything even. So it should be even, but things happen. But if we match the edges up first, then we can ease any discrepancies in. That's my disclaimer, just for people that know me and know that I'm not really a measurer. I'm an eyeballer and whacker. Eyeballing and whacker. That sounds weird. It's a thing. All right. All the talking you do is what I do. Yeah, this is my internal dialogue happening right here, live on camera. Okay. Okay, let's see. Oh, you know what? Somebody asked about double-sided tape. Yes, you could absolutely use double-sided tape. Can we talk about that for a minute? So a lot of people do like to put their zippers in with double-sided tape, and in other projects, I do too. But the way this bag goes together, and because I'm using this number 5 zipper with these wide borders on it, I have actually quite a bit of control here, and I don't mind pinning my zipper on. It works out just fine. If I felt like I was losing control, do y'all know what I mean? Like when your zipper is just kind of wiggling all over the place. If I was losing control, I might go and do the double-sided zipper tape. This is something to know that when you use that tape, you want to make sure that the kind you get doesn't come up the needle, because it can happen. And so look at it carefully, because not all double-sided tape is created equal. Okay. Yeah, you could also use the clips too. And then this is the part where in the pattern she says that you would need to finish this edge by sewing the edge of the zipper to the fabric and just making it nice and tidy. You could use the zigzag. I used the serger yesterday. You do want to trim all your threads. This is actually very nicely finished, and so I'm happy with it. The only thing that I'm going to trim is I'm going to trim off some of these serger tails. Okay, that tail got caught in there. I'm not trimming them so that they get all, sometimes the needle threads, they can come unraveled. I'm not trimming that closely. And actually what I'm doing here is I am finding the one thread to roll them all. And when I tighten that one thread, it kind of pulls it all in and tightens it up and neatens it up a little bit. So I'm going to find that one thread in all of these seams just to kind of tighten it up, make a little knot, get it out of the way. And that way I don't have all these threads caught in the sides of my bags either. Also, y'all know the whole thing about when you bought a shirt and then these little serger tails are sticking out in the seam. That drives me crazy. It just means they were going fast or it was made in a factory. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It just makes me crazy. All right. Telling you lose control every time you sit at your machine. You know what? This is I'm a control freak, and so I feel like every time I'm at my machine, I'm finally in control of something in my life. All right, so now it's time to unzip our zipper and do some top stitching. Okay, before I unzip my zipper all the way, I'm going to look at my zipper, and this end's a little bit more open. I'm going to put a little locking stitch to lock my zipper teeth so that when I unzip my zipper all of the way, I don't unzip it all of the way and then you have to put my little piece of hardware back on. Okay, that's probably the most important tip I could give you is lock your little tail. Now I'm going to put my little zipper pull on, put it in one side, put it in the other side. Once I do this, then I can unzip my zipper all the way. If you're using a pre-made zipper that already has the pull on it, then you're good. Oops. I even practiced this part, like showing you how to put a zipper pull on camera yesterday. I practiced it to myself on camera. I didn't go live or anything because I just wanted to see if I could do it quickly, which is sometimes kind of a hard thing to do. So here's my zipper. My zipper pull is on. That's not quite right, so I'm going to back up just a little bit and make sure this edge is even. And there we go. Now my zipper pull's on. I'm reaching into the middle of my bag to grab that zipper pull. And then when I get it to down here, okay, so I'm just going to go back and forth. Oops. What I'm going to do, I'm going to open that. And then I'm going to see if I can zip it back up. Yep. Okay. So now I'm opened right here, but I don't want to send the zipper out that way. So maybe what I'll do is I'll come down here, then I'll open it up. And now it's opened up all the way. And when I go backwards, it'll reset it. That's what's going to happen. It's kind of a brain thing. All right. So now I've got my zipper like this, and I'm going to top stitch each of these edges. This is another place where she says top stitch and use a 1/4 inch seam. Press if needed. Do we need to press our quilting cuddle? No, not really. And actually, because there's so many layers right here, I'm not going to press. So if you want to, and if that makes you feel better, if it makes you have a sense of control that you need, then go ahead. I'm not going to. I am going to back stitch a little bit because that helps me feel better. But as I'm top stitching, as we're top stitching and knocking down the camera, y'all, okay. As we're top stitching, we're going to avoid hitting the camera, and we are going to sew down the seam. Let me scoot over a little bit closer. We saw the whole thing now. At least my dog didn't run in. Okay. I know on my foot where 1/4 inches. So also you want to get to know your machine. Find out where your feet, do they have a marking on them that tells you where 1/4 inch is or where 1/8 inch is? Like, do you have markings on your needle plate that you could use to line these things up with? All of those little details will help you be a better sewing person. I was going to say sewer, but that looks weird when you write it out. So a sewist or a sewing person. All those little details of like knowing where your 1/4 inch seam is and knowing where 1/8 inch is as it relates to where the needle's coming down and the size of your foot. All of those little details will help. Okay. So it's worth it to get out your manual or spend time with the users group or even taking the new machine users class at your dealer if you have one of those. I do know, remember somebody earlier said they lived in a quilting wasteland or quilting desert and they didn't have that. I'm moving the camera just a little bit so I can get up in here and get this top stitching done. Okay. And now I'm just going to show, when we get to this part, we really are almost done. So we've put handles on, we've quilted it, we put in the zipper. The next thing to do is to sew up the sides. I'm going to do one side. And by me showing you just one side, you'll know how to do that one side, okay? Because we already have another bag with both sides done. That's actually the very end part. Kind of keeping this part out of the way. I'm keeping this flat, and I'm kind of double checking that my zipper tape is turned in under correctly. If that's not behaving for you, absolutely use those Wonder clips and clip it down. This is working this time. Another thing that can affect that is whatever kind of foam you used for your stabilizer. That can definitely affect how easy it is to accomplish that, you know, that fold over. All right, so now I've got a really nicely top stitch edge. Excuse me. Helen, I do like how you said that, not having your machine against the wall. Yeah, so the way this room is set up right now, this is the only place for it, and I need to switch things around, but then I would have to move a whole bunch of other stuff, which you saw when my camera fell. You saw how much I had to move around. All right, here's how my seam looks. Doesn't that look nice? Isn't that pretty? Look at this pretty little zipper pull. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh, right. Remember? Yeah. Isn't that pretty? So cute, right? I love that. Okay. Ooh, it would make a great lunch bag. This is going to be a good size too. So this is a duffel, and a duffel. Okay, that's the whole thing about a duffel, is that, you know, we build the base of the bag. Every duffel bag pattern that I've done, whether it's this one, the knot and thread one, oops. June Taylor has a duffel bag that you sew together. June Taylor's the brand. I don't think June Taylor's a person. But there's a duffel bag kit that you sew together, and you do all of this on the body of the bag, and then you do the edges, right? So that's a duffel bag, and we're going to do a square edge on the duffel bag. Some duffel bags have a circle here. Some duffel bags are squared up. This one is so clever because it's like a box bag, right? Get this all turned out because I turned it right side up. So this one has a cute little boxed end, And our zipper actually comes down, makes a turn and comes down the side right here. Then we've got these cute little tabs. Oh, we got to put our tabs in. That's the next step, and we haven't made those yet. And I want to show you tabs. So let's turn just a little bit, and let's make some tabs real quick because we do need our tabs. So I've got a little piece of the Quilting Cuddle right here, and I have 2 pieces of the SF 101 already cut, but I put somewhere safe. Let's see where I put them. You know what? We'll just cut off some new pieces of SF 101, right? For these little tabs. She has the measurement for these tabs, but I'm going to make them both at the same time. Okay, so I'm just going to cut off a chunk of this. And on one of my tabs, I want a little clip, a little hardware piece just for cuteness. You don't have to do that. I just wanted it. And so, let's see where I put my rotary cutter. I may have lost it on the floor already. Yep, I did. Okay, I'm not going to get down there right now. I'm just going to cut a strip that is the width of the little piece of hardware that I'm going to use. Okay, if I was using the same material that I did for the straps, then it would be the same as the straps. And you may not want your straps to be this thick. You may want skinnier straps. And if you do, that's quite all right. Your straps, your world. It's like a Bob Ross things. Happy little straps, happy little trees. Okay, I need to get my mat back so I can iron without marring my cutting mat. I may not be able to do that. So I'm going to do this instead. So we're pretending that I'm ironing because I think my mat. Oh, I know where my mat is. I'm sitting on it. Let's get it. All right, here's our mat. Is our iron on? Iron went off too. So let's put it on. Let's turn it on. I do like how this turns off when it's not being used. All right, so I've got my Quilting Cuddle for my straps, and I've got my skinny little piece right here. And while that warms up, I'm just going to put this piece of SF 101 right in the middle of this piece of cuddle that I cut for those little tabs. Now, remember, cuddle stretchy, so it's stretching. When I apply the SF 101, that does not stretch. So now my fabric will not stretch. Okay. Pretend to iron. Yeah, my whole life is pretending to iron. Okay, that should be hot enough right now. So I'm just going to press this on, and I'm pressing. I'm not ironing back and forth. I'm just pressing that, letting the adhesive on the SF1 really bond with the fabric. Now, after this is done, I am going to turn off the iron because I forget. And the last thing that I want to do is leave my iron on. There we go. It's off. We're bonded. Out of the way. Make sure it's not going to fall off. Okay, so now, look, you can actually see right here, this side is still stretchy. This side is not. Isn't that cool? So fun. Okay, so now I could press here, but I'm not. I'm going to just make a little strap like this, right? I'm actually going to cut this a little bit tinier. Oh, there's my rotary right there. We can move that now. The question is, later, am I going to be able to get out of this room with all the things that I've thrown on the floor? We don't know. We do not know yet. So I'm going to cut alongside of this edge just to straighten it up so I don't have a whole lot of bulk in there. I could get a ruler. That would be the responsible thing to do. But we've already shown this is not responsible sewing. Right. Irresponsible sewing. That could be the name of the. There we go. All right. There's my strap piece. And now I'm going to fold over these little edges. And because Cuddle doesn't fray. Okay. So I don't have to tuck this under. If I tuck this under or had to turn it wrong side out, that's just a lot of trouble. I don't have to do that because Cuddle fabric doesn't fray. So I'm simply going to fold one edge over the other, put a little pin in it, and then sew it down. And that's going to be good enough for this little strap. If my fabric was fabric that frayed, I might want to treat it differently. And I might want to make a full, right sides together, sew it down, and then turn it right side out. But I'm using Cuddle, so I don't have to do all that. And now this is a nice, durable little strap, or it will be in a second, that's not going to stretch, and it's going to be nice and thin and easy to sew over when I'm sewing the size of my bag in. Okay, so I'm just sewing these edges. And I did not measure, but I'm about 1/4 of an inch from each side. Okay, I'm going to go across here, double check that my fold right there, go back a little bit. All right, and then come down this side. And I'm just keeping it consistent all the way down. All right, let's see. Yes, big difference in pressing and ironing. Yeah, actually, Mary, my clip is a D-ring. It's actually a D-ring swivel lobster clasp. And so I like that because then I can clip something onto it. Not that I know what I'm going to clip on there, but I just have the option. So I could if I wanted to. All right, I'm going to put one more line of stitching down the middle just because I'm feeling this and I like the way that feels. There's no rules. It's a strap. Your strap's however you want it. All right, I'm going to cut that end off. Now I have enough, a little strap piece. Okay, I could have also used my serger to make a strap too. That's a fun way to do it. And I'm going to cut this in half. Both of these pieces are too long, but that's okay because I have plenty. And now I can put my little piece of hardware on there. This is a D-ring. And I made it the width of this D-ring so that this isn't all loosey-goosey, right? So there's my one little hardware. And let me grab my bag. And I need to center one of these tabs on each end of my zipper. Okay, so I got to get my zipper doing the right thing. And I'm going to make it do the wrong thing outside of the border. Now it's doing the right thing inside of it. I'm going to put one over here. And my hardware is pointing toward the inside. I'm going to put one here. And I'm going to pin it on. You could use a clip. I'm using a pin. And this is going to be thick. So there's some little tricks that we're going to do. And then over here, my zipper is going to be open, right? But I sewed this part together. So I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about this little thread. But I'm not worried about, these are just pieces of the quilting threads that I didn't trim off before we put them on there. I'm not worried about this coming open on me while I'm putting this little tab on. Okay, so here's our other strap. And I'm just going to place it over the zipper. I'm going to kind of hold the zipper closed, but it's not closed, right? So this is up here. I need to get that out of the way. But it's just fine. And so I'm going to put a couple of little pins, one on one side, try to catch all of it. And that's fine. And now I'm going to baste these on. I mean, technically, I've got a long stitch length anyway, so that's technically basting, but actually that is not going to work. That pin's not going to work. So I'm going to hold it. I've got enough of the edge of my strap kind of out of the way, and I'm going to sew this on here. Now, I'm kind of squeezing my zipper so it's together, but I'm not really doing a whole lot of anything else, right? And then I'm listening to my machine because I can hear it's, if that was a metal zipper, I would not be doing this. This isn't metal. This is a metal colored plastic. Okay. So the needle is going to slip between those pieces of plastic and it's not hitting metal. If I had any metal bits on it, I would definitely be a lot more careful. But this isn't metal. It's just metal colored plastic. Okay, now I'm getting the back piece kind of out of the way. I'm folding it up under there, and I'm going to baste this strap on right there at the edge. Do you hear how that's kind of putting a little bit of stress on the machine? It's okay. It's totally cool. It just went right through it. If you have an industrial machine, a lot of people have an industrial for bag making. Those are really great. They have a little bit more power in the motor. But you can definitely do this with your home sewing machine. Not a problem at all. All right. Now my little straps are on. You see how cute this is already? looking great. Think you'll need to change needles with all these layers. I don't think I will, but we'll see. And just in case we do, let me just show you this little goodie up here. So what I have is this, it's called a My Pad from Schmetz. And so when I'm not done with the needle, like I've only done part of a project or just a little seam here and there, I just stick my used but not done needles in here so I can use them again until they're done. Does that make sense? This is a great little tool. And I just keep it hanging on the wall behind my machine, so I can just pop one in there. All right. Next thing, let's look at the pattern and see what the next thing to do is. Now we've got our edges. So I think, yep, the next thing to do is to turn it right side in. All right, and now we're ready to sew our edges together. All right, let's see. All right, here's the inside. It looks so pretty on the inside too. Y'all, I love it when a bag looks good on the inside. And sometimes we may look at projects and we may tell people, well, don't look at the inside. That's totally fine. And honestly, people shouldn't be looking on the inside. But if you're proud of the inside of that, you just go on. It's totally cool. That looks really great. I love that. So now we're going to squish the sides flat. Okay, so I've got the middle of the top where the zipper is and the middle of the bottom. Now, remember I had that piece of tape there. The other thing that I could have done if I was doing my directional fabrics, so the nap went the same way down both sides, I would have had a seam right there in the center bottom. Okay, but because I didn't have a seam, I'm going to make a little mark where the center is right on the edge of my cuddle. You see that little red mark I just made? I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Just so that I've got the center marked, it gives me a place to aim for when I'm lining those teeth up so that when I sew it, it's even on both sides. Because I don't want a bag where the zipper's like whack-a-doodle. I want everything to match up nicely. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew both of these sides. And again, here's another place where she says, now we're going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So 1/2 inch for me. I have a marking on my plate, my needle plate. So I'm going to line that marking on the plate up with the edge of my fabric. And this is a little tip for you. If you're new to sewing, or just as a reminder, when we're sewing, what is happening with our needle is not really the place we should be looking at. We should be looking at a landmark, whether it's on the foot or on the plate or somewhere on the fabric. We need a landmark. If we watch the needle, what's going to happen is our needle stitching is going to be, it's going to veer off or it's going to be wavy. So let's watch a landmark, like somewhere on the plate or somewhere on the foot instead. And I do that with my sewing machine as well as with my serger. With my serger, a lot of times the landmark is my knife, right? Because that's the business end of the serger. And that's where things can happen if we're not careful. So I'm watching the knife. I want to see what, are any pins going toward the knife? Anything dangerous happening there? Almost to the edges. I'm going to back stitch a little bit. There's one side, nice and flat. And then we do the other side, nice and flat. Do you have to put the straps on that way? Well, Shawnee, you don't have to, but that's the way this pattern says to. So because I'm not good at following a pattern, I might have made some bags before and sewed things together before I had the straps on, and then I had to do some unsewing. And if you don't like unsewing, then you might want to pay attention to that. So you don't have to put straps on like that. There's other bag patterns that have straps on a different way. I do like this because it means you have really, this is a really nice finish. The straps are on there. They wrap all the way around. It gives the bag a little bit more structure and strength. So that's it's a really nice way to put straps on. But no, you don't have to do it that way. It's just the way this pattern says to do it. And the knot and thread duffel is the same way. All right, did y'all hear that? So I'm going to be very careful as I go over these teeth right here, because we're going through a lot of layers. I'm going through my zipper. I'm going through that little tab. I'm going through the quilt sandwich. I've got some of my serger stitching. I've got a lot going on here. So if my machine gives me an error, which it didn't right here, but it might later, and I'm going to pay attention to that. If it gives me an error, then I'm going to use the hand wheel, turn the machine, turn the hand wheel toward me, and kind of walk over those bulky areas. Right here, I'm okay, but it might happen in a little bit. So I just want us to be aware that that's something that can happen. I don't want to stress the motor out on my machine. This machine has a great motor. I'm not worried about that. But if I was, I would definitely be working to keep that together. Okay, y'all, we actually are almost done. Okay, so now the pattern tells us to cut out a little piece. And I need to find my tiny little ruler that I brought over here. And with this tiny little ruler, I'm going to draw a little box on each side. So y'all know how to box a bag, right? But the pattern tells us what size of box we need. And so we measure our box from that seam we just sewed. So I've got my measurements. I'm going to mark it on this side with my Sharpie. I'm just going to draw right on my fabric, and I'm going to draw the little size box that it says. All right, so I just drew my box on there. I'm going to do the same thing for all four corners. And I'm just keeping the measurements on the fold and then on the seam. Okay, that way it turns out right. So my boxes will be the same on all four corners. And I'm just giving it a little bit extra there. You could use a black Sharpie if you need to. I just happen to have this magenta one right here. See? I just wrote right on my fabric. This is a couture technique. Don't be afraid to write on your fabric. That's how, if you've ever had something ruined that was very fancy and you looked on the seam allowance inside, those one at a time garments are written all over on the inside. That's high fashion, not cheating. Okay. Now, we don't want to use a rotary cutter to cut these. We need to use scissors. So let me grab my scissors and we'll cut those little corners out. She specifically says not to use your rotary cutter. And I could see how easy it would be to just kind of go in there with a rotary and then you go a little too far and then your bag's kind of a little whack. Now, I didn't notice this yesterday when I was sewing on it, but she says if your seam starts coming apart here because we cut out this box, then just go over it again. I think because I'm using the bonded polyester, I don't think anything's going to happen, but I'm kind of paying a little bit of attention just to make sure. All right, I'm going to cut out all four corners, and then I have these little corners to throw away. This really is a very efficient way to make a bag. I'll tell you that. And if your scissors, if you find when you're using scissors, you see how these are kind of slipping as I cut? These scissors do not have a serrated edge. On the materials list, I suggested that you use micro serrated scissors, which we always do when you're using cuddle fabric, because a micro serrated scissor is going to grab and bite the fabric. It's not going to slip out like regular shears or regular scissors will. And I love these scissors. They're just not the right ones for this. The right ones are packed up because, you know, all those classes that we showed you earlier, I'm leaving for 1 in the morning and mine are packed up. Oh, wait. You know what? I put my scissors up and I have one more corner to cut off. So these aren't the right scissors. They'll do the job, but you can kind of see how they're slipping. That's what happens when you don't use a micro serrated edge. All right, let's cut that guy out. All right, all done with those. They're gone. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put a little facing on this edge. So because I'm using like scraps, this is just a little scrap of cuddle. Depending on what size pattern you were using, what size, whether it was a simple mini or the mama or the baby, she'll tell you to cut off a chunk. I did not do that. You saw me not do that. But I was prepared ahead with another scrap of the Stonewash Quilting Cuddle. And so the Stonewash Quilting Cuddle, I'm going to bind this flap now with that. I'm going to do that on both these sides, and then we're going to box the corners. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go over this edge again, both of these. And so I'm listening for, is my machine happy? Okay, that's the most important thing right now. Is the machine happy? Maybe I need to go up a needle size, or maybe I need to walk it manually by turning the handle myself. Let's see. We may be just fine. I am going to pull my thread out just a little bit because I don't want to lose that on here. See, you can tell it's thick. Now this is another part too where I love using Quilting Cuddle as the binding because it has a little bit of stretch. So I can kind of stretch this in the same way that you can bend a little bit of bias binding, right? So I can kind of stretch this just a little bit if I need to and go over those places and make a nice tidy binding. All right, so that's on. Here's part of my zipper. I'm going to cut that bad boy off. And that's where we had sewed it together, remember? So now it's all sewn in there several times, actually, so it's fine. I've got that binding part, and now I'm just going to roll over the edge of Quilting Cuddle, and I'm going to sew that down. I have a little bit extra, so I can pull it and kind of tuck everything in there. You could also trim some of this bulk out if you want to. I might get that even. I don't know where those pieces went. They just flew off. But I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to sew over it right now. And I'm going to try to hit that same seam, so it's kind of like stitching in the ditch, but I'm doing it from the other side. Actually, we could do that. Let's do it from this side, and let's stitch that in the ditch. Okay, that'll be nice and tidy. I'm going to back stitch just a little bit. And this is the place where using the Quilting Cuddle, it's so nice. Okay, right on it. Because it stretches just a little bit, and I can get a beautiful finish. Okay. The other thing too, remember I told you it doesn't fray. So this side that's stitched down, now I can just cut that off because it's not going to fray. I'm cutting close. I'm not cutting right at the seam. I'm just cutting close. All right. I can clean that up a little bit better in a minute, but that's great. Now it's bound right there. Isn't that nice? So nice. Okay, now we're going to box this edge. I should do the other side, but I'm not going to do it right now. So in order to box the corner, what we do is we're going to do a French seam on these corners. This is so brilliant. Y'all, this is why this pattern is great. You're going to want the pattern just so that you can learn to do the French seams. So for doing the French seams, I'm going to work from the outside of the bag, and I'm going to sew that one of those little boxes down. Is that right? Yeah. I left the pattern over there, so I'm not even looking at it. I just remember reading this over and over again because it was such a brilliant thing. So I've got this sewn it to the right side. Okay. And I'm going to trim off any bulk in there. And now I'm going to flip it to the inside and sew it down on the inside. Before I do that, I'm going to get this side so I can do the whole thing over here. So let's do these so they match. I need to. I can clip or pin that, but I've got to get hold of it, and I'm going to stick it under my needle real quick. I'm making sure that I've caught all of those layers. So the back of Quilting Cuddle, this is bulky right here over that bound part that we just did. So I'm going slow. And then I'm making sure that everything's caught there. All right. And now I'm going to trim that bulk out of there. Would I use my serger right here? No, I don't think I would. Because it's going to be completely enclosed in the next part. I'm just cutting off some of that bulk. Okay. So now on the wrong side, so that's the outside. So now on the wrong side, I'm going to go in and I'm going to stitch a little bit bigger seam right here so that I'm going to enclose those raw edges. It's a French seam on the corners of a box bag. It's brilliant. Natalie, you're a genius. I love this so much. Oh, there's a part. Did you see that? Okay, so that was bulky, and my machine was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. So now I've got to tell my machine, it's okay, it's okay. Here, hold in your hand. That was a lot to go through right there. But it's okay. So I'm going to raise my presser foot. It resets my machine. And before I keep stitching, I'm just going to make sure that it's not struggling. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Sometimes they just need to be told they're okay. I mean, sometimes it issue. But all right, so there's one of those done. Let's do this one over here on this side, and then we'll have this whole side completely done. Because what we have now, after we get these two French seams done, oops, you can't see that. Get that out of the way. So this is the inside of the bag. This is the outside. Okay, here's the inside. I'm poking that out really good. I've got long fingernails, so I'm using my fingernails to do that. But if you need to use another tool, you could use one of those, not the stiletto side, a rounded part, pencil eraser or something, just to poke those out really good. And I'm pinching it nice and flat, and I'm going over the edges. Somebody said use a a humper jump. Yep, that would be a good thing too, because it's just real thick right there. Oh my goodness, I love this so much. See, I didn't have a problem going over there. It was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. There we go. There's the other French seam. Oh, I caught some of this fuzz. Oh, it just came off. I sewed over a little piece of scrap. I'll tell you what, though, sewing over a little piece of scrap is way better than sewing over your mat, because I did that too one day. Don't ask. It was not pretty. It was actually with that pink duffel bag right over here. All right, so this is what the inside looks like. When you do the other side, it looks the same way. And when you turn it right side out, are y'all ready? Y'all look at this. Okay, so I just have this side done. I'm not going to do the other side. I'm going to make sure that my zipper is not going to come off. Yeah, because remember we went over that little tab, so it's not going to come off if I turn it all the way right side out. You guys, look at this. Oh my gosh, that's the side I gotta do that. But this is so pretty. Oh my gosh, this is just such a gorgeous finish for a bag, y'all. I don't gush a whole lot. I mean, I do, but when I gush, it's because it's worth gushing about. Isn't this the most gorgeous thing? And when I get this side done, it's going to be just as gorgeous. So this side's going to look like this. Here's my zipper pull. This is going to be all nice and flat. And this is the mini size. Okay, so this is the baby size. You can see the mini's right here. The baby's right here. The duffel's a little bit bigger. So you need to do all three of them. Like you have to. So you want to get the mini duffel pattern, and then you want to get the add-on for the mama and the baby versions. Okay, let me go back to my front camera real quick. Do you want to put up the materials list again for us, Ginger? Let's see. You know what? Let's just do this. I'll just come to this camera. They may both have been gone. So there we are. There's the materials list. I'm going to put that one over there. So our, nope, the other one. This is our classes. We've got classes coming up. If you didn't get a screenshot yet, get a screenshot of it. There's our materials list. So these are all the things that I used. There's not anything on here that I didn't use, except for I told you about that Ironmatic mat and then my Sew Tights cutting system. I love that. Other than that, everything's on here. And this is how you make a bag. And Quilting Cuddle just makes the most gorgeous bags that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they're soft, they're durable, they're easy to take care of, and they're just wonderful. So, and we did it, y'all. We did it. We did it. If I hadn't been yapping, this would have only taken an hour, okay? Because I was yapping the whole time. We've got winners here. So here's our winners for today. You win a Quilting Cuddle Fat Quarter Pack. Amy Lower, Myra Sattler, and Lele Lakes. So what we'd like you to do is to send your info to info@shannonfabrics.com. Be sure to put your name and your shipping info and your phone number into the email, and then in the subject of that email, write live stream winner. So we are so happy that you joined us today. Thank you for sticking with us even through the crazy things that happened. And please let us know if you get to make a duffel bag out of Quilting Cuddle or regular C3 Cuddle or even Lux Cuddle. We would love to see it, and we'd love for you to join the I Love Cuddle Fabric Facebook group so that you can show off the things that you make. Just a reminder, when you're in the I Love Cuddle Facebook group, that there are ambassadors all over the country in that group, and we are there to answer your questions. So if you get stuck and you need help with a cuddle project, there's somebody there pretty much all day and all night, and we'd love to help you out. Um, Check out our classes too. Go to the I Love in the Shannon Fabrics page. You can go down to classes and events, and you can see where we're going to be teaching. And we want to invite you to join us next week, because every Tuesday at 10:30 Pacific, 12:30 Central, 1:30 Eastern time, we do videos like this, whether we're doing a tutorial or we're talking about new fabric or we're just yapping about cuddle fabric. We'd love for you to join us. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today. And I hope to see your duffels. Go make some and then post it in the I Love Cuddle Fabric group. We know you've got cuddle. Find some Quilting Cuddle and use that too. So thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time. Happy sewing.